Welcome back, focused learners. I am your host, and today, think of me as your digital Sherpa guiding you through the sometimes daunting bureaucracy of credentialing. We are talking about the procedural roadmap to renewing your nursing license in Wisconsin. It's a topic that affects thousands of you dedicated professionals, and we're going to break the whole shebang down so it's crystal clear. Let's get right to it. Stay ahead in your nursing career by mastering the renewal process. Don't let a misstep jeopardize your hard-earned credentials. To all the overworked, incredibly dedicated healthcare pros out there, we know you've got a lot on your plate. But Wisconsin is facing critical staffing shortages right now. And your license is quite literally the key to being out there on the front lines, doing what you do best. We can't have you sidelined over a paperwork glitch, right? Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for the explainer today. We'll start with an introduction to license renewal, check eligibility requirements, and then walk through the step-by-step renewal process. After that, we'll tackle continuing education and financial obligations, troubleshoot common challenges, and wrap up with a conclusion and some additional resources. Rest assured, we're going to cover everything from basic deadlines to fees so you can get through this smoothly. Moving into Section 1, Introduction to License Renewal in Wisconsin. To kick things off, you really need to know who governs this whole process. In Wisconsin, your credential is run by the Board of Nursing, and they operate under the Department of Safety and Professional Services, which you'll usually just hear called the DSPS. Now, keeping your license current isn't just a friendly suggestion. It is an absolute legal requirement. State law strictly prohibits practicing professional nursing on expired credentials. If your license lapses, you're exposing yourself to severe administrative penalties and, honestly, the very real risk of unlicensed practice charges. So please prioritize protecting your license. It is definitely not worth the risk to your hard-earned career. So, Section 2, Eligibility Requirements. Now that we understand the stakes, let's figure out exactly who needs to renew and when. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that Wisconsin uses a fixed-date biennial schedule. That means they don't use your birth month or your work anniversary to figure out your expiration date. It's a lot more standardized. For licensed practical nurses, or LPNs, you gotta renew by April 30th of odd-numbered years, like 2025. Registered nurses, RNs, your deadline is February 28th of even-numbered years, like 2026. And advanced practice registered nurses, or APRNs, you're looking at September 30th of even-numbered years. Oh, and just a quick aside for our newly licensed nurses, your initial renewal cycle might actually be shorter than a full 2 years. It all depends on how the exact date of your original licensure falls into this fixed state calendar. So keep a super close eye on your specific expiration date that very first time around. All right, moving right along to Section 3, the step-by-step renewal process. To make things a bit more efficient, Wisconsin actually transitioned all its licensing and renewal procedures to a self-guided online platform. It's called License E, and yeah, that's spelled with a capital E right at the very end. Let me walk you hand in hand through navigating this portal. First, you'll log into the licensee portal at license.wis.gov. Second, you navigate over to the My Approved Licenses dashboard. Third, find the Action column right next to your active credential and select Renew. And finally, step 4, if the credentialing team asks for any extra documentation, just use the little 3 dots menu to select Upload Documents. Actually, a pro tip here, whenever you upload documents, your status automatically shifts back to Credentialing Team Review, so you'll know for sure it's safely in their hands. But wait, before you hit submit on all that, there's a really crucial application prerequisite. RNs and LPNs absolutely must complete the Nursing Workforce Survey. This isn't optional, folks. It's mandated under Chapter 106.30 of the Wisconsin statutes. It usually takes about 15 to 20 minutes to knock out. The state literally uses this exact data to track those statewide staffing shortages we talked about. Now, if you happen to be renewing outside the active renewal cycle, don't sweat it. A shortened version of this survey is just going to be incorporated directly into your regular renewal questions. And that brings us to Section 4, Continuing Education and Financial Obligations. Pay really close attention to this next part because this is where the rules contrast sharply depending on your specific nursing tier. For LPNs and RNs, Wisconsin is actually super unique compared to a lot of other states. You need 0 hours of continuing education. Yep, 0. Completing that workforce survey we just talked about essentially fulfills your requirement. But on the flip side, advanced practice registered nurses face some pretty rigorous requirements to keep their prescriptive authority. APRNs need 16 contact hours every 2 years with a heavy focus on clinical pharmacology. And this brilliantly illustrates the exact breakdown for those 16 APRN hours. You're going to need 14 hours dedicated strictly to clinical pharmacology or therapeutics, and exactly 2 hours focused specifically on the responsible prescribing of controlled substances. To submit these, you got to use board-approved providers. A couple of perfectly valid options explicitly mentioned in the sources are Nursing CE Central or Renew Now CE. So the crucial point is the cost, right? The standard renewal fee across the board for all these licenses is exactly $57, and you can just pay that directly through the digital licensee portal when you submit your application. Super easy. Stepping into Section 5, common challenges and troubleshooting. Because let's be real, what happens when things don't exactly go according to plan? Let's look at how to avoid some major digital headaches. Here are the common pitfalls you absolutely want to avoid. First, and I cannot stress this enough, do not use an employer email address for your license account. Set it up with a personal one. Employer emails get permanently lost when you switch jobs, and trying to recover your state account without access to that email is a massive, unnecessary nightmare. Second, for you mobile device users, if you log in and kind of just don't see the action drop-down, try rotating your phone to landscape mode. It's an incredibly simple fix to a really common glitch. And finally, for the APRNs, make sure you maintain your CE certificates for at least 3 years, just in case the board decides to hit you with a random audit. Now let's punch in the financial reality of missing your deadline. If you completely miss the renewal period, you're going to be hit with a $25 late fee penalty. So you're looking at your standard $57 plus an extra $25. And remember, you absolutely cannot practice while your license is lapsed. Also, I want to heavily stress this critical threshold, 5 years. If you let your nursing license lapse beyond 5 full years, there is no way you can just pay a late fee to get it back. You'll actually have to secure a limited license strictly for the purpose of completing a state-mandated clinical nursing refresher course. You have to prove your competency all over again before you can be fully reinstated. Do not let it get to that point. All right, we have arrived at our final section, Section 6, Conclusion and Additional Resources. Let's empower you to take some proactive steps today. I strongly encourage you to beat the rush and avoid any last-minute panic. Start this process 4 to 6 weeks early, especially if you think you might have document requests or background checks to deal with. Once you submit, you can track your application status right there in the licensee portal. It usually takes about 7 to 10 days to process. If you need direct support, you can reach the Wisconsin Board of Nursing by calling the DSPS at area code 608-266-2112, or just shoot them an email at dsps@wisconsin.gov. Real quick, before we wrap up, I do need to share this important disclaimer. This explainer is intended for informational purposes only and should not be considered professional legal advice. For the most current and specific information related to nursing license renewal, please consult with the Wisconsin Board of Nursing or a legal professional. So I want to leave you with this final provocative question. Have you checked your licensee dashboard today to secure your future on the healthcare front lines? Your skills are deeply, deeply needed, so take 10 minutes today to verify your credential status. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Stay focused, stay informed, and I'll catch you next time.